parable of the Good Samaritan offers a powerful spiritual basis for the affirmation that Black lives matter. Jesus taught in parables to shake us up, wake us up, and make us think about the spiritual life in deep and practical ways. Here's some background to this parable. The central character is a Samaritan. His identity is made to shake us up. One way to understand this is to consider that in Luke's gospel, Jesus traveled the long way to his destiny, down the Jordan River Valley to Jericho, where he turned and climbed the road into Jerusalem. Now, taking this route avoids the most direct route to get from Galilee to Jerusalem through Samaria. Now, Samaritans will tell you that they worship the same God as the Jews. But according to Josephus, a Roman historian from Jesus' time, the common understanding of Jews was that Samaritans were a different race, a people imported from a foreign land to that region by Assyrian kings centuries ago. Perhaps that's why the final speech Dr. Martin Luther King ever delivered, he referenced the Samaritan as a man of a different race. This parable begins when a man of privilege asks Jesus a question of profound spiritual importance. In response, Jesus invites his listeners into a life-changing reflection on the urgency of compassion, the requirements of discipleship, and the priorities of God. Listen to Luke chapter 10, verses 25 through 37. Just then, a lawyer stood up to test Jesus. "Teacher," he said, "what must I do to inherit eternal life?" Jesus said to him, "Well, what's written in the law? What do you read there?" The man answered, "Well, you should love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all of your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself." And Jesus said to him, "You've given the right answer. Do this, and you will live." But, wanting to justify himself, he asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" Jesus replied, "A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell into the hands of robbers who stripped him, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. Now by chance a priest was going down that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. So likewise a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, while traveling, came near him, and when he saw him, he was moved with pity. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, having poured oil and wine on them. Then he put him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper and said, 'Take care of him, and when I come back I'll repay you whatever more you spend.' Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers?" The man answered, "The one who showed him mercy." Jesus said to him, "Go and do likewise." Dr. Martin Luther King kept returning to this parable as an example of Jesus' call to action. The most influential preacher on my Christian life has been Dr. King. I kept a volume of his sermons, Strength to Love, on my bedstand throughout my college years. It changed the course of my life. In 1955, Dr. King pointed out that the road to Jericho was treacherous, that Jesus' central character should have done more than to pay for rest and recuperation. He said that the Samaritans should have worked to change the road into a place of safe travel for all. Dr. King helped America see that racism was more than just a dynamic between individuals. It was a systemic blight, is a systemic blight on our promise as a society. But this parable makes systemic challenges personal and urgent. In 1963, Dr. King said, "This man is anyone lying in need on life's roadside. He is neither Jew nor a Gentile. He is neither a Russian nor an American. He is neither black nor white. He is a certain man. Any man lying needy on one of the numerous Jericho roads of life." All lives in Jericho and Jerusalem mattered, but in that moment, one life was in urgent need. The spiritual leaders in the parable silently passed by this certain man. Now, perhaps they had good spiritual reasons to hurry in silence. Dr. King said they could have been on their way to a meeting to organize the Jericho Road Improvement Association. But violence had been done to this man, and compassion demanded action. And when the time came to act, only one man aligned his life with the course of eternity. In 1968, in his final speech, Dr. King said, "A man of another race came by, decided not to be compassionate by proxy, and helped the man in need." Jesus ended up saying, this was the good man. This was the great man, because he had the capacity to project the I into the thou and be concerned about his brother. Friends, suddenly the unique racism afflicting the black community is being exposed afresh. This moment is personal and urgent. And when I literally see black lives wounded on the street, well, then I choose not to quibble about the minutes of the Jericho Road Association. No. My heart spills over with compassion, and such compassion is driving our congregation into action. And that is why I make the straightforward affirmation for action today: Black lives matter.